This is a video response for TheMrsVolfie. I had a question about how to treat commercial type of lids to can with. I recently bought some bottles to can with because whenever I can ketchup or barbecue sauce or syrups, I don't want to put them in jars. I want to have them in bottles so that I can pour them. And I found a place online that sells commercial bottles, and I did a lot of research on it, and I found that you can with these at home. It took a lot of digging to find the information, but I found that the USDA says that you can reuse commercial jars for water bathing, not for pressure canning, but for water bathing. And they don't recommend that you use a one-piece lid, though. And of course, they don't make two-piece lids for bottles. But the people that make the bottles say that you can use these at home and you can use one-piece lids, but it's best to use the type of bottle and lid that have a continuous thread around the top of the bottle. So that's what I bought. These have the continuous thread. There's basically two types of bottles or jars. One has what they call a lug or a twist top, and that's usually what you find in the grocery stores, or lug type bottles or jars. And here's a lug cap. I don't know if you can see that from a spaghetti jar. You can see it doesn't have threads in it. It just has these little bumps on the side that you hook onto the threads on the jar. The threads don't run continuously around the jar. They just have like little broken segments of a line around it that the lugs grab hold of. But a continuous type of lid is like our canning jars, the ones that we use at home. They have one continuous thread that winds around the top of the jar, and the lids have the continuous thread. So that's the type I bought because they said they're best for home canning. But they didn't have any instructions with it, and I found some information on the internet, but some of it is conflicting. Some said that you shouldn't heat these in water first, and some said you should. And they claim that this liner in here becomes like kind of liquid when it's heated, and then it forms to the jar as it cools. But I heated one of these after I asked you the question, and it didn't turn real soft or liquid. So I guess it'll be okay to heat them, and you're heating yours. So I'm going to give that a shot. I don't know if you could see this or not. This is a brand new lid. And it looks different from what you see when you take it off of a jar that's been used. It's very thick. And that's the continuous top. And these were actually a good deal. I got them from a place called Fillmore Container. And these were $5.30 a dozen. And then I bought this type too, and they were $5.50 a dozen. And the shipping wasn't bad on me, considering that they were shipped from Pennsylvania to Virginia. I got 5 cases of these, 5 dozen, and 2 dozen of these, and the shipping was about $28. Plus I got, I think I ordered, is either 300 or 400 lids to go with it. I have enough so that I can can these, all of these jars 2.5 times before I need to buy more lids. So it was a pretty good deal. But from all of the research that I did, like I said, it was a lot of conflicting information out there, and I also tried to find out just how commercial canners do this. And I was, to tell you the truth, I was kind of shocked at what I saw. I'll put a link to a video in the description box, because you know how they tell us to wash the jars and boil the jars and heat the jars and heat the stuff that goes in the jars and heat the lids and process it and all that. Well, they're not doing that commercially, and like I said, I'll put the link to a video in the description box. And this isn't just one instance where they're not doing what they're supposed to. All of them I saw, they're doing it this way, and it was kind of shocking. And in that video, you'll see that the bottle will pass through a machine, but what they're doing there is they put a little plastic sleeve over the top of the bottle, and it's like shrink wrap. When it passes through that mechanism, it shrink wraps the plastic around the bottle for like a tamper-proof safeguard. But they're not processing those bottles. I was kind of shocked at that. I mean, after they pounded into you that home canning is so inferior to commercial canning, then when you look at what they're doing, it's really surprising. And it seems to be the way they do it for things like sauces and syrups. So I was really surprised to see that. And another interesting thing I found while I was looking up information was on mayonnaise. I avoided putting mayonnaise in my food storage because it has to be refrigerated, and I'm kind of trying to work around a non-refrigerated type of scenario. And I'd seen online in a couple of places where people said that you don't have to refrigerate mayonnaise, and I thought, oh yeah, right. But I did find information from a reliable source while I was hunting for information on this that says you don't have to refrigerate mayonnaise, and I was really shocked at that. And it's from some kind of a sauce association, so I'll put a link to that in the description box too. But I was happy to see that you're using these bottles because, like I said, I've read and researched until I thought my head would explode. And so if you're heating the caps, that's what I'll do too, and just go ahead and process them in a water bath. So thanks for the help, and thanks for your video. That was a really great video. I was real pleased to see you pull that bottle out. I forgot to mention that the reason that commercial canners use the lug type of jars and lids is because they said it's easier for their machinery to put the lids on the jars, and the lids are cheaper. And I've read some information that doesn't make sense about the difference between the lug type lids and the continuous type lids. They say that the lug types will withstand heat of 180 degrees, and that the commercial canners will put their product into the jar by using a hot fill method, that the product's going in at 180 degrees, and the heat from their product is what's sealing that cap. But if you'll watch that video, that the food is not going in there hot. Those people are handling that with their bare hands immediately. And the same thing with the other videos I've seen. And they claim that the lug types will withstand 180 degrees, but the continuous type of lids would withstand 220 degrees of water bath canning, which doesn't make sense when things like spaghetti sauce, especially if it has a meat in it, it has to be pressure, I would assume that it's processed. And I have seen videos where they're making pickles, and briefly I would see the conveyor belt go down under the hot water, so they are being water bath canned. But and they're using the lug types to water bath can. So they also claim that if you're using the lug types at home, it's a little more difficult to get it the correct tightness. That it's the continuous thread types are it's less likely that you will over tighten or under tighten those lids, and that they will vent. And I noticed that the continuous types have these little grooves all around the top of the bottle. Apparently that's how the gas is vent out of the bottles. And your standard canning jar lids, the rings, have those little notches all the way around the top too. So there must be something to that for home canning. And but even though they say that these shouldn't be water bath can, they're obviously doing it. I've seen them do it with pickles, with the lug types. So if you had a lot of commercial jars that you've saved, you could always, I mean, if you, I'm not saying do it or recommend doing it, but you can buy these lids, these lug type lids, to replace the ones that were used. And also I found that somebody was recommending that companies should start using the twist, the continuous thread types, because they were trying to encourage them to have the jar specially made with their name imprinted on it. They said it built name recognition, and the jars would be reusable and people would buy them, and I agree with that. And I found that the salsa at Walmart, the Great Value brand, their brand, it's the mason jar, reusable, and it's the continuous thread. So these are reusable, and they should take the standard canning jar lids and rings. And I know that a Classico brand of spaghetti sauce uses these jars as well, but that spaghetti sauce is expensive. So that's oh, and they also said, the USDA said that these commercial jars are more prone to breakage because they aren't as thick. The quality of the glass just isn't as good as the ones that are specifically made for home canning, and that there can be a little bit of trouble getting the lids to seal because the lip of the jars are thinner because the glass is thinner. So you have a smaller surface there to get your seal to adhere to. And I compared the lips of these bottles to the jars for home canning, and they're right, they are thinner, a lot thinner. But I'm going to give the commercial bottles a shot. So thanks again, Mrs. Wolfie, for answering my question and for that great video. I really enjoyed that video of yours. And sorry about all the rambling in this video, but I thought I would try to share the information that I dug up on the commercial jars with everybody while I was at it. And if any of you have any information about using these bottles or jars, I'd appreciate that as well. And if you have any insight into exactly what they're doing, canning commercially, I'd appreciate that too, because I tell you, when it comes to the sauces and the syrups, it looks to me like all they're doing is gluing a lid onto that jar. I know that when they're processing things like pickles and all, that they're going through a process, but geez, I was really shocked to see that the way they're doing it for the sauces and syrups, and it made me more comfortable with doing this myself. I mean, how wrong can you go after seeing that? So there you go. Hope it helps.